Chapter 3 of Dave Dashaway, Air Champion, by Roy Rockwood. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. Chapter 3, Target Practice. "Why, I say," exclaimed the tramp with a wondering stare at Hiram. "You don't seem glad at all." "It isn't him, you see," responded Hiram dubiously. "Oh, yes," he hastened to add, noticing the injured way Borden took it. "I'm glad you are here to draw a picture of the man who tried to blow us up, but I was almost sure it was, well, a fellow we know and have every reason to fear, but it isn't." I see," murmured the tramp thoughtfully, and he ran his eye ever more critically than ever over his handiwork. "Yes," he continued slowly, "it's a pretty fair picture. He doesn't seem familiar to you, eh?" "No, I don't remember ever having seen a face like that before," answered Hiram doubtfully. "Just as well, I reckon. He'd be no advantage to anybody, that fellow wouldn't. Well, that's the fellow you want to go after, provided you intend to." "Dave will," declared Hiram with vim. "There's some mean hangers-on in our line and lots of jealousy, and it's led to danger and loss for us several times before this. The management here will take this matter up if we make a complaint about it. Dave's going to. I could see that from the look on his face when he went off just now. Thanks," he shouted to a young fellow on a motorcycle who flashed by, flipping an envelope to Hiram. He had a gold-braided M on his cap, indicating that he was a grounds messenger acting as postboy in distributing the mail to the various hangars. "Why," added Hiram with increased animation of manner, as he scanned the printed words in one corner of the envelope, "it's from Chicago, and the headquarters of the International Meat Association we were talking about not an hour ago. I wonder—" Hiram strolled off by himself, looking out for Dave and building all kinds of air castles. In about 5 minutes his chum put in an appearance. Hiram ran towards him, waving the envelope, and placed it in his hands. Dave opened it. His assistant watched his face keenly, and was gratified to note that it assumed a pleased expression. "It's from the people offering all those prizes we were talking about, isn't it, Dave?" questioned his eager assistant. "Yes," replied the other. "It's from the committee of the big international meet. They invite us to participate, Hiram." "Us?" repeated Hiram. "Oh, yes. You can be sure they'd ask you, though. What you going to do about it?" "Oh, we'll think it over. They write that they are sending the details, such as rules and restrictions, in a later mail. We'll study them when they come." Of course, Hiram, in his impetuous way, was ready to take up any proposition in the aviation line, no matter how important. To him, Dave was the one champion in the field able to compete with all rivals. He had been with Dave long enough, however, to get used to his methodical, businesslike ways. Hiram was eager to plunge at once into the merits of the new proposition, but he knew that Dave had put the matter aside until he was ready to take it up for real action. "Oh, say, Dave," Hiram changed the subject, "come along till I show you the picture our tramp friend has drawn." "That's the man who tried to blow us up," he announced, as they reached the side of the hangar where the sheet of manila paper was tacked. Dave surveyed the sketch critically. He saw at a glance that the artist had caught some strong facial characteristics of the person whose likeness he had attempted to draw. The young birdman shook his head slowly. "Don't know him?" broke in Hiram questioningly. "Neither do I. Anybody would again know if that sketch looks like him. See here, Dave," and Hiram was very serious and impressive. "It's just such mean tricks as this one that have been the start of all kinds of trouble for us. We want to nip it in the bud this time. What do they say up at the office?" "They promise a thorough investigation. There has been quite a lot of vandal work at the different meets, and they say they will spare no pains or expense to run down the fellows who are discrediting our exhibitions." "Want to speak to me?" asked Dave in a kindly tone, noticing the tramp hovering about near them as if he had something on his mind. "Why, yes," answered Borden. "You fellows have been mighty good to me, and I feel as if I owed you something. I'm no detective or anything of that sort, but if it's a point to you to find out something about the original of that picture—" "I should say it was," interrupted Hiram strenuously. "Then, as I'm the one who saw him closest and who know him best, maybe I'd be luckiest in recognizing him on sight. I'll take a little scurry around if you say so, and try to run him down or head him off and find out what's back all of this." "Vernon, our old-time enemy, is back of it, or else some envious chaps who think you may go to this new meet and who want to keep you out of it because they know you'll win," whispered Hiram to Dave. "That's a very good idea," said the latter to Borden. "You think you saw this same man hanging about the grounds last evening? You might come across him again by keeping your eyes open. Suppose you do that now. Here's a little change you may need," and the young aviator slipped some silver coins into the man's hand. "Hiram, the management here are talking about a bonus flight the end of this week. I'm interested and have promised to meet with the directors in an hour. I suppose you want to take your regular fly with the Scout?" "I've counted on it," replied Hiram promptly. "But someone ought to keep a close watch around the hangar, I suppose." "Oh, I don't think we'll be troubled in the daytime," answered Dave. "You can arrange with a grounds watchman to look in on our property from time to time. You won't be gone very long, I suppose." "Oh, just a scurry across country and back," replied Hiram, with a nonchalance manifestly affected, and Dave smiled to himself, suspecting that his young assistant was up to something as he recalled to his mind the mysterious bags that Hiram had been making. Surely enough, those same bags played a part in the latter proceedings of the ardent young amateur airman. The tramp had started off on his mission, promising to report his possible discoveries that same evening. Dave followed him in the direction of the office of the grounds. Hiram, left alone, bustled about in the most active enjoyment of one of those occasions when he was given a chance to test out the knowledge of air sailing he had acquired under the tuition of his gifted chum. He threw open the doors of the hangar, and as the bright sunlight streamed in, stood in a sort of rapt dream surveying the two machines exposed to his view. "The beauties!" he cried, his sparkling eyes resting first upon the Ariel, then upon the Scout. The Ariel was the very latest model in the aeroplane line. It succeeded the famous Comet. That was the fine machine in which Dave and his friends had made their trip around the world. The Comet had been built more for rough usage and staying power than for fancy sprints or stunts. It was now an honored relic in the showrooms of the Interstate Aero Company. Only a few weeks before the present introduction of the reader to our young hero, Mr. Brackett had delighted his young protégé by shipping to him, at the Midlothian grounds, the latest model in aircraft. The Ariel flew as a parasol-type biplane. It gratified Dave to note that the manufacturer had followed out many incidental suggestions he, himself, had made from time to time when visiting the plant which Mr. Brackett practically owned. The main planes of the new machine enabled easy entrance to and exit from the cockpit. The pilot had an unhampered view in all directions. The craft had a maximum span of 35 feet and a chord of 7 feet. The area of the main planes was 225 square feet. The overall length of the machine was 25 feet, while the weight, empty, was 900 pounds. The motor was of radial construction and of the 6-cylinder type, having a bore and stroke of 5 by 6 inches respectively. A speed of about 80 miles per hour was easily attained by the machine, loaded with 50 gallons of gasoline and 10 of lubricant as an average for a 3-hour flight. "Want some help?" inquired a man from a neighboring hangar strolling up to the spot. "Just a mere lift," replied Hiram briskly. "The little Scout acts just as anxious to get up sky chasing as I am." "Ready?" announced the helper, getting into position. "Let her go!" ordered the enthusiastic young airman in a tone like a hurrah, his quivering fingers clutching the wheel and control and thrilling to the tips with animation and delight. It was a superb day. Air, sky, and wind currents were propitious for an easy flight. To Hiram there was nothing in the world equal to that delightful sensation of skimming through the air like a bird. It was almost rapture to realize that the turn of a wrist or the pressure of his foot sent the airy, graceful fabric of steel and wood far aloft, like a pinion-poised eagle ascending safely through space as would a speeding swallow arrow-aimed for a long, deep dive. Hiram struck a course due west. Once aloft at a convenient level, eyes and mind were fixed upon a direct point in view. At the end of an hour he was out of sight of the camp and the aircraft practicing in the vicinity of the exhibition grounds. Between two settlements, some 15 miles apart, Hiram began to descend. It was where a 2-mile reach of level pasture land intervened, dotted here and there with underbrush and stunted trees. The Scout landed and its young pilot alighted. Under one arm he carried some sheets of white paper. He halted to place one of these on the ground, holding it flat by stones weighing down its corners. He then proceeded fully half a mile farther, again placed a sheet on the ground, gradually, in like manner, making a circle fully a mile and a half. Finally, he came back to the Scout and got up into the air again. "Target practice," chuckled Hiram as he circled away from the spot, made a sharp turn and volplaned full speed as though aiming to land nose first directly upon the first white sheet in his course. Hiram made a magnificent dive. He swung over the control so that 50 feet from the ground the machine turned the reverse arc of a circle of nearly 200 feet. His hand shot down beside him and grasped one of the bags, lifted it, aimed it, and practically fired it at the target in view. "Missed," he grimly observed, but quite pleased all the same, for the bag landed flat and did not roll and lay not 2 feet away from its intended mark. "Hit it!" crowed the excited Hiram as, with a second swoop, he made a direct hit of the second target with a second bag. The third was a miss. The fourth was like the second. "If I can make it that good, what can't Dave Dashaway do?" soliloquized the young aeronaut as he gathered up the bags and replaced them in the Scout. "I'll spring the scheme on him just as soon as he makes up his mind to go into that international contest, which he's just got to do." Hiram went afloat once more, determined on a swift run west, a turn, and then a course homeward bound. He chuckled. "If any of the airmen saw my maneuvers with those bags, they'd think I was practicing to go over to Europe and drop bombs." "Now, what does that mean?" murmured the lad suddenly, and with a quick start Hiram slackened his speed to study out the details of a lively scene in progress directly beneath him. End of chapter 3.